Tong says, it's quite disheartening to see people with the same education in great positions. Is there better ways to use that education to make it seem it was completed more recently? Okay, Tong, listen, they've got the same education that you have, right? Now, why is that? Does that suggest it's only about education? No. In fact, it's usually about other things too. Now, what could it be, right? If it's not all about education, what could it also be about? Well, it could be about soft skills like communication skills, how professional you are, things like this. Can you do public speaking? Can you present? Can you sell? Can you persuade? Things like this. These are all skills that are pretty basic. They're pretty simple to learn. And then you practice it for a year or two and bam, you're an expert. You know, you're perfectly competent. The way they present themselves, you know, do they dress up? You know, if you're there in sweatpants and a t-shirt and they're there in a three-piece suit, you know, maybe that's a factor, right? But the other thing is usually one of the critical things is networking, right? People hire people they know and trust. It's just that simple. If you could hire anyone to do something for you, you need to move your furniture, right? From one apartment to another apartment, right? You got a new place. You got to get all your furniture moved. You can't carry it all yourself. Some of it's pretty heavy and there's a lot of it. So who are you going to get to help you? You could get anyone. You could get some big muscular moron that you don't know, right? Muscular moron movers, right? There's a name that rolls off the tongue. Hire them. Now, the question is, they could do it, but do you trust them? Probably not. Remember, this is like all your personal stuff, all your sentimental valued stuff, right? You know, there might be some valuables in there too, right? Would you get them or would you get your brother? Or would you get a friend? Now, why do you hire your brother and your friend? It's because you trust them, you know them, right? So when there's a moving job up for grabs, who gets it? Your brother and your friend. Now, is that unfair? It depends how you look at it. You could say it's not unfair because these people have earned your trust. You know that they're not just going to load it into the truck and drive away, never to be seen again. You know what I mean? Like, you trust them. And that's what's important. That's the most important thing, right? So how do you get that trust? Well, you get to know people. You hang out with them. You're a known quantity, and they've known you for a while. They know you do good stuff. You know, they know you do good work, and they know you're professional. They know you can get. That is also a big factor, okay? So it's not all about education, nor is it all about experience. Those are factors, but there's other factors too, and some of them are below the radar, okay? Especially for introverts. I'm an introvert. You're an introvert. I suspect we tend to devalue that stuff. We tend to be blind to it. We think the job interviews are all about who's the most qualified, you know? But then we get really angry when we see that someone who's less qualified than you gets the job because they smiled more and they cracked a few jokes during the interview with the hiring manager, you know? And we are infuriated by that. You know what I mean? But it's also because we underestimate how important that actually is in the real world. So learn more about that stuff, okay, is what I'd recommend. I don't know your exact situation. I mean, I'm just playing on, you know, what's the most likely kind of thing, but learn about as much of that stuff as you possibly can. It's not just as simple as like, oh, they have more education. It turns out in the real world, that stuff matters quite a bit less than you think it does. And you're right, it is disheartening. But you know what the solution to that is? Learn all the factors, brush up on the factors that you're weak in, and then you overcome it. And it won't be disheartening any longer because you'll be in that position. Alpipal says, another great comment, sometimes people see your weaknesses and use them as a strength against you, and it loses jobs and other good opportunities. Yeah, exactly. I mean, recruiters are experts at that. It's a gift they have, and it usually comes because they don't understand any job that they're recruiting for, right? Good recruiters, they don't need to understand the job because they're evaluating you on universal things like your attitude. Doesn't matter if you're a medical doctor or a construction worker or, you know, someone who does a lounge act. If you show up to the interview and you're angry and you're defensive and you insult the interviewer, it's like they don't have to know the details of your profession to know that you're not going to be the one that they want to go with, right? You know what I'm saying? So they're evaluating on stuff that they do know about. Things like your communication skills, things like your attitude, things like your awareness of protocol and etiquette and stuff like that. How professional you are, how persuasive you are. You know, this kind of stuff. But they can turn any weakness into a strength, and they can turn any strength into a weakness. It's very simple. It's like, oh, you know, you're a great guy and you're a great person and everyone likes you. Oh, well, I can tell you're not the best worker in the shop because you're off socializing, where a lot of these introvert types who don't talk to everyone and don't make friends everywhere, they're getting on with some work. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could turn any strength into a weakness and vice versa if I had to. Oh, you've got a negative attitude, where you're someone that like spots, you know, deficiencies and calls people on it. That's the first step to improving. You first have to admit something doesn't work. If you ever want to hope to improve it, you're the person that doesn't stand on ceremony. You cut through the crap and you point out that something is not working. You know, we need people like that. How are we supposed to improve ourselves if we were surrounded by yes men all the time? You know what I mean? So I like the cut of your jib. You could turn anything into anything depending on your attitude. And that's what a lot of recruiters do in job interviews. And sometimes they do it just to get a rise out of you, to make you want to defend yourself. And that's what they're hoping to get. So they see if their gut feeling about one of your traits is legitimate or it's not. But if Clown World Jr. is a real clown, maybe stuff, water guns, and hand buzzers are useful interviews. That's right. You know, there is a thing called clown college, right? It's like that joke where, you know, the clown lost the interview by showing up, right? You know, he showed up to the interview, so he lost, so he didn't get hired, right? The real clown would have, like, you know, totally forgotten about the interview. So that's something that I think needs to be explored. And I'm glad that we ended on such an awesome note, because I think there's a truth inside of that we can all agree on about life. And that is to follow your bliss. There you go. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. You guys are awesome. Check out my courses. I will be back next week with more live streams on Monday. So hope to see you there. If you have any questions, let me know, and I'll try and help you out as best I can. Always remember, you're awesome. Any employer would be lucky to have someone like you. And I'm saying that. That's the reality. Don't get fooled by this silly game we call job search. It's just another dance, and you can learn about it and ace it like any other thing. Okay? And you will before this is out. Talk to you soon. Take care.